All right, earlier today, thousands of New York City workers made their last stand protesting Mayor Bill de Blasio's vaccine mandate in front of the mayor's home. City workers, that includes firemen, police officers, sanitation workers, they have until November the 1st in the Big Apple to have a COVID shot. And with just 68% of the New York firefighters and 73% of New York police officers vaccinated, the ultimatum could spell trouble for the city. And of course, New York City is not alone. Last week, hundreds of protesters in San Diego gathered with firefighters and police officers who opposed the city's vaccine mandate for first responders. And earlier this week, officers in the Windy City rallied outside Chicago police headquarters saying they are ready to go on no pay status for not complying with their city's shot mandate. You know, is this really what the people of America want? I mean, given the fact that we are seeing historic rise in violent crime, murder rates across the country, is this what we want? We want to decrease the police force? Well, joining me now to talk about this is Larry Cosme. He is the president of the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association. Larry, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me.
What have you been hearing from officers in different parts of the country regarding various city mandates?
They are very concerned, and the concern lies because these essential workers were relied upon to make split-second decisions to maximize public health and safety throughout our nation. And now they're saying that essential workers are not equipped to make these well-reasoned decisions for their own health and safety with, and to them, it's demeaning and demoralizing. In one instance, you could trust the essential workers to make split-second decisions to protect the communities that they're serving. And now they can't make decisions well-reasoned with their own family doctors to make their own decisions. So it's pretty disheartening.
So Larry, I have to think that's like whiplash. I mean, 18 months ago, they were heroes because they were going to work in the midst of a pandemic, and now they're being treated as villains.
That is correct. And I've actually, in some of my press interviews and news releases, I've actually stated that they're trying to villainize these individuals that essentially were out there on the front lines and tackling the pandemic. And at the time, there was no vaccination in play yet. And then when the vaccination became available, they were provided the vaccination. But, in certain instances, we actually had to advocate to make sure that these individuals had the availability of the voluntary vaccine. And we as an organization have always advocated for that. Yeah. We've advocated for a vaccination.
Sure. I mean, I support vaccination for those that want to get it. Those are in high-risk categories. But I would imagine that many of these first responders, and I'm a former police officer, I'm involved still with law enforcement, a lot of friends still in the business. A lot of them were exposed to COVID, and they have natural immunity.
That is correct. And that's another thing that we're arguing I'm the leader of the organization. I am arguing that they should provide these individuals what's called reasonable accommodations. And that's not being adhered to, or they're slow at rolling it out, or they're giving like deadlines for the vaccination instead of giving them the opportunity to come forward with a reasonable accommodation, whether they have the immunity because they had the COVID-19, or they have an underlying reason why they do not want to get this vaccination, or a religious exemption. We have to honor that and respect that.
So what's going to happen? Will these cities, I mean, this is an issue of public safety. I just can't imagine, given the backdrop of the rise in crime that we've witnessed in the last year, that these mayors, in most cases mayors, sometimes governors, that they're going to hold firm on this and fire these first responders.
I believe that they had not thought this out properly, because it is an issue that our members are concerned about, because crime is at an all-time high. The police are not adequately supplied. They don't have the adequate personnel to tackle the crime rate that's out there right now. So you imagine with 30 to 40% less officers on the street or agents, that's going to be a major problem for our country.
Because we've gone through the defund the police movement where a lot of guys have gone on and retired or chosen other professions. And so we're already, I know most agencies that I've spoken to are already at a deficit when it comes to personnel. This is only going to make the matter worse. It's
going to amplify the matter. In fact, that's a great point you highlighted. Through attrition because of retirement, in a lot of the jurisdictions throughout the country, whether it's federal, state, or local law enforcement, you're going to have officers that are just going to say, listen, you know what? I had the time in service. I'm out. I don't want to tolerate this where the government's trying to mandate something, and they're not going to give me the ability to consult with my own family physician.
Very quickly, we're up against a break, Larry, but any prospect of the courts intervening here?
There are several cases that are going through the courts now. Some constitutional lawyers have reached out, and I've consulted with them, and there's a potential for an injunction that might be upheld soon. There's a few lawyers out there that have some really good cases related to the actual folks that have had COVID-19.
All right. Larry, thanks so much for joining us. We'll continue to track this and have you back on when we have more developments.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Have a beautiful evening. Thank you.
All right, you too. Larry.